What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. We got another haul and review video for you guys this week. Very excited to share that as we picked up some pretty awesome titles this week. I don't want to give too much away, but I wanted to start this video by thanking everyone who has watched, liked, subscribed, commented on any of our videos that we've had over the past couple weeks. We've shifted the narrative of this channel a little bit. We've gone away from being a video game channel and more into the physical media. That's just what I collect. That's what I like. It's more natural for me. So I want to thank you guys for sticking with me. I want to thank our new viewers for checking us out and, you know, keep those comments coming because I really love everyone's feedback on what we're doing here. So obviously in these videos, if you've seen them before, we've got the haul portion of the video where I talk about the titles that I picked up this week. And then we've got the review portion of the video where I review some of the titles that we picked up last week. And every now and then I'll throw in some different titles as well, just stuff I watched over the week that I have in my collection. If you're just here for the reviews, that's going to be your timestamp right there. Go ahead and skip ahead to that portion of the video and we got you covered right there. If you want to stick around for the haul, though, we got 9 titles that we picked up this week. And the main event title I'm really excited about. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right into the haul. We'll have a bit of a channel update at the end of the video as well. So, first things first. I was expecting this title last week. Didn't get it because of the USPS. We had a similar situation this week. But I won't talk about that because I have no idea when that title's coming. So we'll get it when we get it, and I'll review it once I have it in. But the first title that I want to cover this week was Casper, the Friendly Ghost Casper. This is the Steelbook edition from Best Buy. If you take a look at the Steelbook itself, I'll show off the cover art a little bit. But it's just Casper and the other ghosts. I can't even remember the other ghosts' names at all. Comment below what their names are. I don't know why I can't remember. Anyways, what's kind of interesting about this is it is the same Blu-ray that has been released before. There's nothing new on the actual Blu-ray disc itself, but there's a bonus DVD in here that has 2 additional feature films and a bunch of shorts, some of the old Casper cartoon shorts, also included on this disc as special features. Now that's a DVD, it's not a Blu-ray, which some people aren't as excited about. Me being kind of one of those people, I really don't buy too many DVDs anymore. But it's there, and it's additional content that you're only going to get in the Steelbook, not the traditional Blu-ray release. You take a look at the artwork. I kind of showed you what's on the front. I'll lift up. I haven't taken the print off the back yet, but you got the house right there on the back. One thing I will say, and I'll cover this when I review this title, so this is not going to be the only time you hear me say this. This is not a matte finish. This is more of the glossy finish. And on Steelbooks, I can't stand this finish. I really can't. And I'm going to tell you why. Sometimes the shininess gives it a better picture, but you just get fingerprint city all over this freaking thing. And the fingerprints are going to stay. They're going to stick. And it's just, it's not my favorite. This thing is a fingerprint collector. I'm not going to lie. And you take a look at the artwork on the inside there. Christina Ricci and Casper right there. I had to look up how old Christina Ricci was. I wasn't sure if she was older than me or not. And it turns out, I think she is, but only slightly. I think she's like a year older than me or something like that. But that was just interesting. Doesn't really have anything to do with this. So, but you know, I love my Steelbooks. Casper, the Friendly Ghost Steelbook from Best Buy. We got this. We are going to review this next week. I'm like weirdly excited to review this, and I don't know if that's embarrassing. I don't know if I should be embarrassed by that. I kind of think I should. But Casper, the Friendly Ghost. Now, we're going to cover this one next, and this is what I would consider the main event of what we picked up this week. I can't begin to tell you how excited I am about this for multiple reasons. The first being, I love Arrow Video. I love what they put out. I think anytime I get an Arrow release, I think it's going to be, I know it's going to be quality. I never question that. I know I'm going to get good video. I'm going to get good audio. I'm going to get a restoration that was done, that had care put into it. And when I found out they were getting into 4K, actually releasing 4K UHD discs, I was beyond excited. And I didn't even care what the title was. They could have released anything and I probably would have bought it. And this here, Flash Gordon, is the first Arrow foray into 4K. And I cannot begin to tell you how excited. This in Pitch Black, but Pitch Black was delayed in the United States, as you may know. So I'm anticipating that with bated breath. But Flash Gordon right here, I've heard such good things about this restoration, about this presentation. I cannot wait to get into this. So this is the special, the limited edition release. This is, I was trying to see if it was numbered. I thought they used to number these, but maybe not. Maybe not. Anyways, this is the limited edition box set. It comes with a lot of different things, plus the 4K disc itself. I have not opened this yet, and I think I'm going to do that when I do the review of this. I'll open it before, obviously, but I'll talk about what's inside of this when we do the review. I just have so many discs this time around that I don't really have time to get into this. So when we do the reviews next week, the first thing I'm going to review is Flash Gordon, and I'm going to go into some of the contents of this limited edition. But what I do want to show you is you see all of this right here? If I go from there to there, that's all special features that are included on this disc. That is an incredible amount of special features, and you get so many on the 4K disc and so many on the Blu-ray. There's a special documentary that's on this. Man, I gotta tell you, I am so excited to dip into this. So comment below, did anybody else pick this up? Have you already watched it? Let me know what you think of this transfer. It's gonna be one of the first things I watch coming into this week. I'm very excited about it, and if you wanna comment, I would love to have a conversation about this. I will admit actively, I am not a fan of this movie. Okay, I am one of the haters of this movie. This movie has a cult following, so you either love it because you have a weird cult love for this movie, or you think this is a really, really stupid movie. And I am in the camp of this is a really, really stupid movie. So I cannot wait to watch it and see if this new restoration forces me to fall in love with this, because maybe it will. I have heard such good things about this. I'm very excited. Arrow Video's release of Flash Gordon limited edition. Next up, and really for the rest of the video, we have filler titles. So at this point, I had gotten my pre-order, my one pre-order of the week, which was Flash Gordon, and I got my pre-order from last week, which was Casper. I did have an additional pre-order that has been delayed from Amazon with no date as to when it's going to arrive. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, and I'll cover it when and if I get it. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about some of the other discs that I picked up, just to supplement my collection. You know, I like to do this. I'm not going to be able to do it every week, but I do like to add in some titles just to beef up my collection a little bit. And the first one is, it's a Marvel title, and I know the Marvel transfers aren't the best in 4K, but it was on sale for $14.99 at Amazon. I really didn't feel like I had much of a choice. I had to pick it up. I have the first one in 4K, and this is just Spider-Man Far From Home. I can't say enough good things about this film if I remember it correctly. What I love about this new iteration of Spider-Man with Tom Holland is it's really exactly how I think Spider-Man should have been done in the first place. I mean, I've got my respects for the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, not so much the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, but the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man I do have my respect for, but I think this is the best. This is the best Spider-Man we've seen on feature film, not this movie. I really enjoy this movie, and I'll get to rewatch it and review it maybe, but Tom Holland as Spider-Man, he just nails it, man. So this is the 4K version of it. Inside, you just get the 4K disc and the Blu-ray disc. Nothing really special. There's a few special features. The funny thing is on the back, they say, look, we have over an hour of special features. Well, whoopee-doo, an hour of special features, but still, Spider-Man on 4K, Far From Home. Next, we got, I have the Blu-ray of this, so I don't know, man. I just kind of wanted to add it to my Disney 4K collection. This is The Lion King 4K Ultra HD UHD disc of The Lion King, and Disney kind of does these slip covers with the sides bent out. That's just what they do. It's not bad. It's not a bad slip cover. Some people don't like it. Same title art under the slip cover. When you dig on the inside, they really want you to join the Disney Movie Club. You get the UHD and the Blu-ray. I think the special features are the same ones that were on the previous Blu-ray release. This is an Ultimate Collector's Edition. It's The Lion King, man. Great movie, great film, one of Disney's bests, in my opinion, specifically the Renaissance era. This is maybe the best, honestly. But The Lion King, 4K UHD. A little side note, because we're talking about it, Disney has kind of shelved 4K. UHD titles in the future going forward. They're not going to go back in their catalog, and that disappoints me greatly. So I don't know how my support of Disney will continue if they make this decision, because I obviously love physical media and I support physical media, but you should definitely let Disney know, specifically when it comes to some of these 20th Century Fox titles that they've purchased, that you want to see some of these movies. You want 4K releases of these movies. Disney Plus is not going to cut it, okay? I like Disney Plus. It's a good service, but it's not going to cut it. We need physical media to continue, and Disney wants to kill it. And that is not acceptable to me. So that's a side note, but us physical media collectors and us fans of physical media, and I'm assuming if you're watching this, you like physical media yourself, we need to keep the hobby alive, and we need to let Disney and studios like Disney know we want to continue getting 4K restorations of these titles on discs. That's a side note. Next up, we got a 20th Century Fox title that is now a Disney title because Disney owns it, and that is The Call of the Wild. Harrison Ford movie. It's newer. It's a 4K UHD of that movie. I don't know much about this movie, and I don't know if this is a good transfer. Again, Blu-ray disc and the 4K disc. It has very little special features on it, but again, I got this at a pretty good price, so I figured why not pick it up. I tend to like movies about dogs. Boop, boop. But I'm also like terribly afraid to watch movies about dogs because they usually end in tragedy and sadness, and I am not of that life, man. So The Call of the Wild, will maybe give this a watch. I don't know if it's sad, but I have my feelings. Next up, we picked a movie that I know very little about, Ad Astra with Brad Pitt in 4K. I know very little about this movie. It looks like a science fiction movie. It looks like something that I would enjoy quite a bit. I think I'm going to review this next week. So, but it's one also that I just don't know much about, and I don't know why I don't know much about it. I'm sure it was a big release, but I'm just at a loss. Ad Astra with Brad Pitt. I remember hearing about it coming out. There's your 4K disc and your Blu-ray disc. I just don't know much about it. I'll admit it. I don't. On my Instagram, I mentioned that I don't know much about this, but comment below if this is a good movie. Honestly, should I watch this? Is this something I should review? Ad Astra with Brad Pitt. And finally in 4K, and maybe embarrassingly, but I got it at such a good price. Look, I know it's a bad movie. There it is, The Nun. I know it's a bad movie. I know, but it was $9.99, guys. So I had to, you know me, when I get a 4K movie for $9.99, I've got to pick it up. I just got to do it. How do you not do it? 4K for $9.99? How do you not do it? The Nun. I have the other Conjuring movies, except for, I don't have the latest Annabelle, where she comes home or whatever. I don't have that, but I did see it in the movie theater, and not great. How was I not supposed to do this? Anyways, you get the Ultra HD, you get the Blu-ray in here. Digital copies for abound on most of these, by the way, but we've taken those out already. And we picked up 2 Blu-rays. We picked up 2 Blu-rays this time around. Again, just supplementing our collection, adding some things we don't have. And first I'll go with Candyman. This is the collector's edition. This is a Scream Factory release. And what I love about Scream Factory is you get those special features, and they do not disappoint. You get both the theatrical cut and the unrated cut. So you get 2 different cuts of the film, each of which has special features. On the inside, we will take these out. You get the theatrical cut, you get the unrated cut, and then on the inside, you get the flip of the different artwork. This is the original artwork for the film. But I'm really excited to rewatch Candyman. It was a movie that scared the crap out of me when I was younger. As a matter of fact, still to this day, when I go into the bathroom, I even, in my mind, am afraid to think the name Candyman 3 times. So I'm excited to give this one a rewatch. We'll probably review this one next week. This is Candyman on Blu-ray. And then finally, and again, maybe I should be embarrassed by this, but I picked up Hellfest. This is $5, guys. This was a $5 release. Again, for $5, I'm going to buy it. I've heard very positive things about this film. I have not watched it. I've heard it's a pretty darn good slasher film, and I'm kind of excited to give it a try. I haven't taken this one out of the plastic yet. I just got it in. So I'm kind of excited to watch this and tell you what I think about it. Is it crap? It could be crap. This could be really bad, right? But I've heard it's really good. So Hellfest is the last title that we picked up this week. That's it, guys. That's the haul for the week. Again, 9 things, a lot of 4K UHD discs that I'm really excited to dive into. But now let's move into the review portion where we talk about what we picked up last week and what we kind of thought about what we watched. So first and foremost, I'm going to review Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. So I'm going to start by reviewing the physical, what we have here on the outside, the steelbook itself. I love this steelbook. I do. I love it. You know, what I love the most about it is matte. It is a matte finish, which means fingerprints are going to be less likely to stick to this thing than those freaking glossy finish steelbooks. The matte finishes, I also just, in my opinion, they just look better. They look smoother, they look slicker. This just looks a lot better. And I also love the artwork on the outside of this steelbook. So I'm going to say this, and I usually say this with steelbooks, if you don't own the 4K UHD version of this and you're looking to pick it up, go with the steelbook, because this is a really, really cool one. I showed it last week, but on the inside, I'll just pop this out real quick so you guys can see one last time. You basically get the Red Room, and that's what you get on the inside. So let's talk about the movie itself. I don't want to say I was disappointed because I really didn't have high expectations going into this film. What I think would have been a lot better, because I think the monster design was really cool. I think the practical effects were really cool. I think when they added in CGI, it got a little murky at times, but the practical effects are really cool. You know you're going to get a good looking horror movie when Guillermo del Toro is involved. You know you're going to get a great horror movie, and this did not disappoint in that aspect in terms of a great looking creature design and a good feel for a horror movie. I mean, this had a good feel to it. What I didn't like was that they tried to tie all of these little stories together. So they took the stories from the book, and they took 4, I think, of the most, they had 10 in mind, but some of the most known ones, some of the ones that stand out the most, and they tried to create a narrative that would tie all of these stories together. And in my opinion, that really, really fell flat. I just think this would have been a lot better if it were presented in an anthology style. You could have done this like Creepshow or like Tales from the Dark Side. Those movies from the past that were presented in Twilight Zone, the movie. Those movies that were presented as anthologies and they just told separate stories. And you really could have done that here. This idea, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, based off of the book is written as an anthology or just a collection of stories. You could have easily done that in this film and gotten away with it. But instead, they tried to tie everything together with the narrative. And the narrative just doesn't work for me. It's centered around Vietnam. And you have these kids. And the kids, they kind of work their way into this haunted house situation. And they find the book. And then the book starts to write stories itself based off of the kids, involving the kids that were in the house, right? I don't know, man. I just don't think it worked very well. Again, it would have worked a lot better. The whole involvement of Vietnam, too, by the way, I didn't get and I didn't care for. I really didn't care for it. You get a lot of background. They really try and set the tone that this takes place during Vietnam in that era. And I just think it was too much. I don't care. What do I care what era this takes place in? You could have had this take place in any era and it would have been fine. We didn't need it. It was unnecessary narrative. And again, the whole thing was unnecessary narrative because you really didn't need to tie these together. And when you watch this, that's where it falls the most flat. The creatures look good. The scares are... I wasn't scared personally watching this. I don't think there was one time watching this movie where I jumped or thought I was scared or felt dread or any of that. So it doesn't really work in that aspect. But it's a decent enough movie that you don't feel offended by watching it. Like, you spend 2 hours watching this movie and you're just kind of like, all right, that was there. And maybe that's the best I can say about it. That was there. So what I'll say for Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, just based on the story itself, we would probably give it a 6 out of 10. It's not spectacular. The narrative is poor. The whole connective tissue of these stories is just... I'm not in love with it, okay? I think it would have been a lot better as an anthology. Now, let's talk about the way this film looks. Honestly, I think that It looks fine. I don't think you get much improvement, and I did view a little bit of the Blu-ray just to compare the two, and I don't think you get much of an improvement in terms of detail with the 4K disc. Obviously, some faces are going to look more detailed. I think in every 4K disc I review, that is the case. But I also think that where you get the most benefit here, as I say in every 4K review, is with the HDR, because the colors do look a lot better, more natural in the Blu-ray with the HDR than they do in the SDR, or I'm sorry, in the 4K disc with the HDR than they do in the Blu-ray with SDR. There's a scene, any of the scenes that involve Harold in the cornfield and some of the kids, I think those scenes stand out. The darks are not egregious. The film is a little too dark at times. And another thing, the film has this orange amber tint to it almost the entire film. And I thought that was egregious. I just thought it was not well done in both the Blu-ray and the 4K disc. And I know that's an opinion. Some people are going to say that it's fine. It definitely looked better in the 4K disc than it did in the Blu-ray. It looked more natural on the 4K disc. But I just didn't care for it. Some of the colors do stand out. The kids' jackets, they're wearing Letterman jackets. Those colors really stood out to me. And the red room really stood out to me as looking really good with HDR. So visuals, look, you don't get much more detail over the Blu-ray, but the colors do make a difference, as they usually do. So I have to say that it's probably an 8 out of 10 video-wise. Nothing spectacular, but again, 4K with HDR, and the HDR looks good, and the color grading is well done, minus that amber. You know, I'm going to say 8 out of 10. It was pretty solid video. Now let's talk about the audio here, and you know, I personally didn't think it was anything spectacular. You get a 5.1 Dolby True HD audio track with this. I didn't think it was anything spectacular. I thought it was okay, and it wasn't, once again, it's not offensive audio. It's just, nothing boomed my speakers, right? Now, I will say, it does a good job of using your surrounds when the monsters are involved. When the monsters are involved, you do kind of feel your surrounds a little bit, but I just wasn't impressed with the audio track. Nothing to write home about. Definitely not a demo disc. So we just give that something like a 7.5 out of 10. It's not offensive, and it's not spectacular. So it's right there in the middle. The extras, I give it a 7. There's a lot of featurettes on this, a lot of very, very small documentaries. There's not much else, but there's enough here that you have something to watch after you watch the movie, and there are commentary tracks. I think there's a commentary track. I want to say there is. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there isn't. But the extras, we give a 7 out of 10. Overall, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is a 7 out of 10. It's a recommend. I mean, in all honesty, if you enjoy the film, it's not offensive. It's not going to bother you. It's just a recommend on, like, if your girlfriend's over and she wants to watch a horror movie, but you're too, you don't want to scare her too much, pick this one up. It's good for that. Next on the list, we have Midway. And Midway was a pickup that I had the first week I started doing these videos. Did give it a watch this weekend, and my opinion of it is pretty mediocre. It's a pretty mediocre film. Let's talk about the presentation here, though. I do like this cover. I do like the cover art and how it's kind of shiny and it shines. But that's about it. There's nothing spectacular. This isn't a steelbook. It's the standard release. So let's talk about the story a little bit. I felt like this could have been really, really, really good. It has a pretty all-star cast. Patrick Wilson, Luke Evans, Aaron Eckhart, Mandy Moore, Dennis Quaid, Woody Harrelson. I mean, when I say these names, that's a powerhouse cast. This should have been really, really strong, and it just wasn't, man. It just felt very piecemealed together. It felt very, very long. I mean, you feel the length of this movie. It just kind of drags. And the thing is, there's so much action in this movie that it shouldn't drag. It has no business dragging. You should be involved in the action and moving along. But it just kind of drags. I've seen some people online criticizing this movie for the dialogue being a little cheesy, but I think they were trying to capture the time. They were trying to capture the time period, and some of that cheesy dialogue, the way people talk, we associate that with this time period, so I don't think that's necessarily egregious. The movie kicks off right around Pearl Harbor, and it just kind of follows some of the events that happen afterwards. And again, it's just kind of muddled, and it's really long, and it's really piecemealed together, and it's just kind of unnecessary. It's again, I'm going to say this, I said this about the last one, it's not offensive, it's not great. I would give this a 6 out of 10. You could have cut 30 minutes out of this movie and it probably would have been a little better. It would have been a little tighter. You would have been able to control the narrative a little tighter. Again, acting is not bad here. I enjoyed the acting in this film, but the story was just piecemealed together and it just didn't flow very well. 6 out of 10. The video here was okay. It was all right. I felt like it could have looked better, specifically in some of the CGI scenes. I just didn't think they looked great. Some of the detail just wasn't there, honestly, and I think the Blu-ray probably looked the same. I mean, when I watched this in 4K and on Blu-ray, again, it's just, I mean, there are little details, like you can tell in their outfits and stuff like that, like how they look, but it just wasn't a spectacular presentation video-wise. I wasn't impressed. The audio, though, this is a demo disc for audio, folks. That's what this is. I mean, this uses your Atmos, and it has an Atmos track to the fullest extent of its possibilities. When you hear those planes buzzing above you, you can hear those hitting on those speakers, those overheads, and you can feel that, man. You are immersed in this story by the audio. It's not a great story to be immersed in, but you're immersed in it by the audio. The track booms, you feel it. You can hear the bullets just buzzing by. This is a fantastic track. 9.5 out of 10 for the audio track. This is how you do Dolby Atmos right here. This is a demo disc for that. The extras, there were some featurettes. There's some talk. I don't know, 6 out of 10. I wasn't too terribly impressed with them. But overall, I'm going to give Midway a 7 out of 10. It's recommended only because of the audio track. This is worth a listen if you have Dolby Atmos. If you have an Atmos setup, pick this up. You won't regret it. Now I'm going to get into what I probably consider the two most controversial reviews of the week. The first being the 2018 remake of Halloween. I don't know, man. So when I first saw this in the movie theater, I thought this was solid. I thought it was a solid presentation, but I rewatched it for this review, and the more and more I think about it, the more and more I'm just not really... I'm more leaning towards this was decent and it was solid, but I have my issues with this. And some of those issues are, I just don't know that it was necessary. Halloween H2O, which is retconned now by this film, did a really good job of retelling the idea of Laurie Strode meeting Michael Myers for another time. He's back. And it made that connection between the two of them very well. And there are some scenes even in Halloween H2O that I think are better than in this film, involving Laurie and Michael. This retcons the idea that Laurie and Michael are brother and sister. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all, because I don't understand why Michael is attached to Laurie. And it kind of tries to explain that a little bit, but it doesn't. It doesn't. Like, to say that Laurie Strode was just some random girl, her and her friends, that Michael stumbled upon, and because she defeated him, that's why he needs to, like, go back at it. I don't know. I think there's a little more substance to Michael, and there was in the original Halloween. This film tries to kind of take some of that substance and wipe it away, because the argument is that Michael is a lot scarier when Michael is unexplainable, because what's the unexplainable is scary. The mystery. But I actually think Michael having a connection to that house, because that's where he killed his sister, Laurie and her friends being at the house, which is why Michael gets attached to her in the first place, and then it turns out they're brother and sister. That really adds to the idea that Michael is now back in Laurie's life and builds on that connection between the two characters. What I did like about this film, though, was that Laurie was almost the one haunting Michael, not the other way around. Laurie couldn't get over the idea that Michael was still alive. She was consumed by it, which in a way turns Laurie into the stalker this time around. And I thought that was an interesting take on the film. Now, again, I'll also say this. The whole idea that the doctor just turns at the end of the movie and the narrative is that I want to understand what it feels like to be Michael. I didn't like that at all. I didn't think it was well set up. I didn't think it was well executed, and it's just ends so abruptly that I'm just like, well, that was kind of unnecessary. You just threw a twist in there to have a twist in. But that's the bad. The good here is that this movie does, in a lot of movies, it is, and I'm going to say this is controversial, and I know it's controversial, but it really shouldn't be, because size matters in a fight. And Michael Myers is huge. He's this hulking, bulking man who has a little bit of unusual supernatural strength, and we're just supposed to believe that you know, a normal human being, particularly an 125, 120 pound woman, could manhandle Michael Myers. That's hard to believe, but this movie does a good job of building that in realism by saying, hey, these women have been training their entire lives to fight Michael. Laurie Strode is not just a woman. She is a powerful woman who's been training her entire life, and they set up these booby traps so that they could overcome the strength of Michael. It just did a really good job of explaining that, because not all films do. And then you're kind of left in this world where you're like, well, wait a minute, that's probably not how that would go. But this movie gives you a basis to go, you know what? Maybe that is how this would go. I don't know. So I really do like that. Again, they use the original soundtrack. The music in this is fantastic. Story-wise, I just 7 out of, you know, I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. I did go a little higher. Originally, I was leaning towards a 7 out of 10, but I did go a little higher because again, I say this, it's not a bad film. And it's not a bad telling of Halloween. The whole retconning thing, I'm a little not into that. I'm a little not into when we retcon previous entries just because we can't figure. It just, to me, it's a laziness. You can't write your way out of a situation, so you just erase it and start over. And I don't like that, you know? What I will say, though, is that this really shows that you can make a decent Halloween movie, even sort of a remake, in 2018. Rob Zombie could learn because his Halloween movies are bad. And this just goes to show you they're bad. I mean, when you watch this and then you go back and you watch the Rob Zombie movies, you're going to think, these are kind of bad. They kind of are. Let's talk about the video. So this looks okay. Again, I don't know. It's not a huge step up from the Blu-ray. It's a little bit of a step up because you do get some finer details. Michael's mask looks really sharp. And you can see the details in the mask, right? And when you can see the wrinkles and the pores in people's faces, so there is a little bit more detail there, but it's not too much of an upgrade from the Blu-ray. If I put them side by side, I'm not sure if you'd be able to tell me which one was which. The dark, again, HDR, I've said it again, I'll say it every single time, does add to the coloration a little bit. The film looks very natural. The color grading looks very natural. But that's all I really got there. Honestly, video-wise, I'm looking at probably an 8 out of 10. Nothing egregious, nothing spectacular, but pretty good. Audio, 8.5. I love the soundtrack. The soundtrack to this movie. Oh my gosh, you got John Carpenter back. Those synth sounds, it feels Halloween. This feels every bit of Halloween. They nailed the audio here. And you get a DTSX track. It's a good track. Again, you're not booming, but you do. It's so good, 8.5 out of 10, because that soundtrack is so solid. Extras, you don't get much here, man. You get a few very short featurettes. I'm hitting this hard for the extras because they could have thrown more on here, comparing this to the original and talking about all of those things. I'm giving this a 3 out of 10. It's not worth it with the extras. It is just basically the movie and a couple of 3-minute featurettes. Nothing spectacular. So overall, Halloween on 4K gets a 7 out of 10. It is a recommended film. I would pick it up if you like this movie. I would pick it up if you don't like this movie. And if you can get it for $9.99 like I did, buy this instead of the Blu-ray. But I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to notice much of a difference between this and its Blu-ray counterpart. Finally, we have my favorite film. What a surprise this was, by the way. Hobbs and Shaw. So, I have to admit, the Fast and the Furious movies are ridiculous. And if you're one of these film snobs that can't stand to watch these movies, boy, are you going to hate this, because this goes off the freaking rails of realism. We're not even on the realistic train anymore. We are completely off in a different universe, and you have to embrace that to enjoy this movie. But if you do embrace that, if you do realize that you're about to get into a ridiculous world that defies physics and you just want to have a little fun, I can't think of a better movie that I've seen this year that gives me as much of a sense of fun as Hobbs and Shaw. This was a good time wrapped in a film. I can't compliment enough Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Jason Statham's interaction between each other. They do the whole buddy cop thing almost as good as Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. I mean, this is grade A buddy cop stuff between these two. The banter, the back and forth, each of them kind of plays their role very well, right? Jason Statham is the James Bondish kind of slick dude. The Rock is just a big walking, talking tank, and they play up on that, man. I'm going to say this movie was so much fun. And look, again, for a ridiculous story, and if you're willing to let go of that realism and just try and have some fun, this is probably the most fun I've had in a Fast and Furious movie. 8 out of 10. It's a bit ridiculous, but it's a lot of fun. It's a little too long, I will say that. They could have cut a little bit out, but good time. The visual, this looked stunning to me. Even the special effects looked great. I think this was the camera this was shot on was a 3K camera. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it was a 3K camera, and they downscaled it to 2K and then upscaled that to 4K for this release. But this looked really good. Details were fine. Coloration was great. The action scenes were awesome. The HDR really made those blacks an appropriate level. This just looked really good. 9 out of 10 video. I'm trying to think, was this Dolby Vision? This is Dolby Vision and HDR 10 Plus on this, so you get one or the other, and then it also has an Atmos track, which again, a 9 out of 10 on the audio. I can't knock this thing in audio. My speakers were going. There's a lot of scenes where there's music and talking, but none was too high and the other wasn't too low. It was a great balance of sound. The music hit my surrounds. All of the action booms and you feel it around you. Bullets are buzzing by. You're dodging back and forth. The audio on this was just as phenomenal as the video. 9 out of 10. I gave it a 7 out of 10 for the extras because there's a decent amount here. They say 80 minutes plus of bonus features. There really was a lot here. So I have to say, man, Hobbs and Shaw was my highlight of the week. My big surprise, if I recommend any movie, it's going to be pick up Hobbs and Shaw on 4K. I got this for $9.99 on Amazon. If you can still get it, pick this up. Especially if you're a fan of Fast and Furious, this is a no-brainer pickup. 8 out of 10, highly recommended. Highly recommend Hobbs and Shaw. Guys, that's my reviews for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to give a little bit of a channel update, but before I do, I want to thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe if you enjoy my comment, ding the notification bell so you know when more is coming. A little bit of a channel update. So obviously we're going to do another haul video next week. We're going to do our normal cadence of hauls and reviews. I've got a special review coming this weekend over the Ringu collection that was put out by Arrow Video. There's 4 movies in that collection on 3 discs, and I'm going to review each movie individually, and then I'm going to review the collection as a whole. We're going to do that separately from my normal haul reviews because it's a collection, and I want to give it a little bit more of a thorough go-through to tell you whether or not I recommend it or not, or if I just recommend picking up Ringu by itself because that was released independently. So we're going to do that, and then we're also going to wrap everything up at the end of the month with a monthly review, and then during that monthly haul, we're going to talk about a giveaway we're going to be doing. So we're going to be doing a giveaway throughout the month of September, and we'll talk about that in that monthly haul. So stay tuned to that so that you hear about that. And then finally, we're going to go live. We're going to do a live video on YouTube Live at the beginning of September to talk about all of the releases that are coming in September, all of the 4K releases. We'll only touch on 4K. But all of the 4K discs that are coming out on September, we're going to go through them together, and hopefully I'll get to chat with you guys while we do the live and all of that good stuff. But anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you. I really appreciate every single one of you, and I just hope to engage with you more coming up. So thank you for watching. I will see you guys next time.